Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Jewish Federation of the Lehigh Valley and Jewish Family Service for the second in a series of seminars about COVID-19 and how to deal with it. I'm thrilled that I'm working very closely with the Jewish Federation team, and I have Executive Director Jerry Zimmerman here, and I have Erin Gordinsky and Stephanie Smarchin helping me, and I see one of my staff. There may be more staff, Carol Wilson here, but without further ado, I'm just going to say that the purpose of doing this is so that people can get some insight into some of the things around this virus. It certainly is a unique situation, and I'm going to introduce you to Stuart Horowitz, who's the chair of our clinical committee. He gave the first presentation and really talked to us about curbing our anxiety around COVID-19 and ways to help us calm ourselves and relax and deal with what this virus has done to our lives. So we were very fortunate to get Howard Levin to talk about a different aspect of the virus. And I'm going to just give the floor to Stuart, who is going to moderate this evening and tell you about Howie and field the questions also. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stuart, for participating, and thank you, Howie, and thank you, everyone on our team.
Okay, thank you, Debbie, for those kind words. Welcome, everybody, to the second in a series of webinars on COVID-19. Before we get started, I just want to thank Debbie, the Executive Director of Jewish Family Service, and Jerry Zimmerman, the Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of the Lehigh Valley, and Rabbi Alan Judah, who's the Chair of the Board of Directors for Jewish Family Service, for putting these programs together. Tonight, what we'll do is Dr. Levin will speak, and as he's speaking, and you can type in your questions, and then when he's done, we will read the questions to him, and he will answer your questions. Dr. Howard Levin received his board certification in child and adolescent psychiatry in September 2016. He attended Hofstra North Shore Long Island Jewish Medical School at the Zucker Hillside Hospital Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Residence and Fellowship Program from 2011 to 2016. He received his medical degree from Penn State University College of Medicine in 2011. He received his Bachelor of Science degree from Albright College in 2007, where he majored in biology, psychology, and mathematics. Dr. Levin joined the psychiatry department at St. Luke's University Health Network in July 2016. He is currently the medical director of ambulatory psychiatry services at St. Luke's University Health Network. He is also the St. Luke's Department of Psychiatry Medical Student Clerkship Director. Dr. Levin currently resides with his wife Rachel and 2 children in Upper Nazareth and is happy to be part of the vibrant Jewish community in the Lehigh Valley. I am particularly delighted, since I had worked with Dr. Levin for a number of years, to introduce him to you and turn it over to him. Thank you, Dr. Levin. The floor is yours.
All right. So thank you for having me. And I'm going to talk tonight about the effect of COVID-19 on families and how to deal with stress during the pandemic. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist at St. Luke's Health Network. So I spend a lot of time talking to families in the office about how they're managing with stress. And so I'm going to share some tips and things I've read up on. So an overview of the talk. First, we're going to start with how to help adults to manage with stress during pandemic, both parents and non-parents. And then we're going to focus on how adults and parents can help their children to manage stress during the pandemic. And then how to talk with kids about the virus and without increasing their anxiety, but also with trying to keep them informed. How to manage when family members are hospitalized, and then that's going to be followed by a question and answer session at the end. So how can adults deal with stress during the pandemic? I'm having a lot of stress and anxiety because of COVID-19. What can I do? So I think, first of all, it's important to try to normalize the experience. Definitely, it's a stressful time for everybody, and everybody has some elevated feelings of anxiety during this time. And anxiety can present in a variety of ways. Feeling more tired than usual, feeling restless, having achiness in your muscles, trouble concentrating, being more irritable or on edge, and definitely people can experience a lot of sleep problems, both falling asleep at night and staying asleep. So understanding that everybody is experiencing it and that it is normal and that there's nothing wrong with you for feeling anxious or stressed can be reassuring, and also can help people to be mindful of what they're experiencing, especially if you already had a baseline level of anxiety or were already suffering from a mental health problem. Definitely the added stress or anxiety can exacerbate previous symptoms that you may have had. People who already have obsessive compulsive disorder and are worried about germs and washing their hands may definitely see a spike in their OCD symptoms during this time. So I think recognizing how you're feeling can help you to care for yourself and manage your stress and cope with difficult situations. So to start, in terms of managing stress, definitely the more media, the more you're taking in every day can definitely lead to elevated stress levels and anxiety. So paying attention to how you're taking in information and sort of limiting yourself to how much information you're taking in each day can be helpful in lowering your stress level. And definitely there's a lot of information out there, and so making sure that you're getting your information from reliable sources. The Centers for Disease Control or the World Health Organization has very detailed and good, reliable information about the pandemic, and helpful strategies on how to mitigate your chances of getting ill. Be selective about how you consume news, setting limits on how much and how long you're watching the news for. Sometimes reading can be a better way of obtaining information than watching or listening to news all day long. It can help you to control how much, what kind of information you're absorbing. Spending time on social media can be good in some aspects, but also not sort of believing everything you're reading on social media, and being informed with sources that are evidence-based is important, and not believing everything you read. And that's sort of what the next point says there about false information spreading very easily on social media and can lead to an unnecessary elevated level of stress or anxiety. And definitely, if you are sharing things on social media, making sure that they are from a good source and that they're reliable pieces of information can be helpful. So when you're not watching the news or reading your social media feed, trying to find things, keep yourself busy all day, especially when you're not working and spending a lot of time at home, is important. And I think it's a great time to do hobbies or things that maybe you used to enjoy, but life was always so busy that you never really had time to get back to it, or just projects around the house that maybe you've always wanted to do but never had an opportunity to. It's a good time to really engage in some of those hobbies or activities that maybe you're usually too busy to do. Learning a new skill, definitely. On my Facebook feed, I see a lot more people cooking and making different dishes than maybe they would normally do, doing puzzles. And we've completed a couple of different 1,000-piece puzzles in our house. Journaling or writing down your thoughts, scrapbooking things that have been going on so that you can look back at it later and remember what you did during the pandemic. Doing tasks around the house, organizing, gardening, rearranging your living space. Definitely reading books is great. And it's really just trying to find things that bring you joy and comfort and that maybe you've been neglecting. Exercising definitely is important in terms of helping to stay relaxed and energized. And while the social distancing and the quarantining has prevented a lot of social interactions and has led to a lot of people feeling a bit lonely, depressed, sad, feeling like they're missing out, trying to maintain contacts with friends and family and staying connected is important. And even though we can't meet in person, having virtual phone calls, webinars, visits with family and loved ones can be helpful. I know over the recent Passover, there were a lot of virtual Seders going on, and that helps you to still feel you're connected to your family even when you can't be with them in person, and also to religious organizations, and still being able to go to synagogue or church has been helpful to people in a virtual environment. So staying connected via phone, email, social media, definitely checking on people who are living by themselves and seeing how they're doing, and asking, especially for the elderly people, if there's anything that you can do to help in terms of doing grocery shopping for them or bringing them essential supplies or medications, and sharing how you feel with people that you trust. Talking about our feelings can help instead of bottling up our emotions. Um, and just reaching out sometimes can be helpful. I know the patients I see, a lot of them are sort of hooked into the video games, and that's sort of one way of maintaining social contact with their friends, but also not spending all day long on video games is good as well, and getting outside and taking a walk. All right, let's see, we'll go to the next slide. Um, Sometimes when we do actually find somebody to talk to, the conversations are revolving around the virus and people being sick and ill. And so that can add another layer of stress. So really trying to set boundaries around how much you're talking about the virus, and trying to balance it with other topics and just what you're spending your time doing, the hobbies you're doing can be helpful. Doing virtual activities together, planning virtual dinners, coffee breaks, doing at home crafts and activities. And my wife is great at thinking of different activities for our children to do and comes up with a different arts and crafts project every day. I think that is great. Reading books, watching movies. A lot of people are Netflix binging during these times. Also, definitely, there's been a lot of virtual gym classes, meditation, yoga. So trying to find things in your community that you can join and do uh, to to help stay relaxed and get some exercise is definitely good. I'm working from home and feeling disconnected. What can I do? So definitely the work environment has changed for most people. Pretty much everybody is working from home remotely, doing meetings similar to this one and similar to the one pictured with the Zoom or other online platforms. And while that is good to get work done, it can still feel very disconnected and isolating. And also managing having your children at home while trying to work can be challenging for a lot of families. So structure and a sense of regular schedules can help people to feel less stressed and less anxious. When you feel like you can control things in your life and you have some structure to it, it definitely helps reduce anxiety levels. So starting your day with a regular routine can be helpful. Walking, getting exercise, journaling, eating breakfast, and creating structure around working from home, finding a space in your home that's quiet that you can get your work done in. Some people suggest maybe dressing in your work clothes can help you, even if you're not going to be on camera, to feel like you're being productive, and keep you on task while you're supposed to be working. Scheduling times when you're working and times to take breaks, and definitely prioritizing self-care activities throughout the day. So when working from home, it can be easy to work longer than usual. So, I mean, when people go to their jobs, they frequently will bring home their work with them and work in the evenings on things that they didn't get done during the day. And when you're doing your work from home, that can just lead to the work never ending. So it's important that you're sort of setting some boundaries with when work is supposed to stop and when you should be spending some time with your family, so that you're not constantly stressed with work. Um, Not spending in-person time with colleagues can be challenging, definitely. So trying to find ways to connect with your colleagues, even when you're not actually seeing them on to a day-to-day basis. So even though I'm still going into my office, even within the office itself, we're not spending much time with each other in the halls or just in meetings. And so it's trying to find ways of connecting virtually that's important, and still having virtual happy hours or virtual gatherings outside of work can also be helpful. And then the last point, similar to the point that was made earlier about sort of not just focusing on the virus or focusing on work, but having other things to talk about, doing a virtual coffee break or a virtual walk can be helpful. I feel isolated and lonely. And this is a common feeling for everybody, but definitely some people who are feeling this level of isolation and loneliness can become significantly depressed or anxious, and really could benefit from having even more support than just family and friends and loved ones. And so here are some support avenues that are in the community. NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. There is a NAMI group in the Lehigh Valley, and they host online community discussion groups where people can exchange support and encouragement. Emotions Anonymous is an online social support group that focuses on well-being. Definitely Jewish Family Services has a lot of support, counseling services available. And at St. Luke's, we're doing a lot of virtual, both psychiatric services in terms of medication management, as well as individual and group psychotherapy. So there is help available, and sometimes people feel like with the virus, there's no way of seeing a doctor or seeing a therapist or getting help, but definitely a lot of the medical groups have moved to virtual platforms. And so you should still be both maintaining your physical and emotional health during these challenging times, and contacting your doctors to make sure that you're getting your medical and mental health needs taken care of. So we're going to move on to how to help children deal with stress during the pandemic. And so, similar to adults, having a schedule, a regular routine can be helpful for kids in terms of getting through the day, and can be helpful for parents in terms of keeping their kids busy and keeping the environment different from hour to hour and prevent things from getting boring. So trying to create a daily schedule or routine can be helpful. Trying to mirror similar things to what they would have been doing at school or in daycare or in preschool can be helpful. And a lot of schools have been helpful in terms of setting out schedules for kids to follow. But a visual schedule can be helpful in terms of what you're trying to accomplish each day, when they're going to do their schoolwork, when they're going to have time for breaks, what kind of activities you're going to have them doing. Here are some ideas to help you create a daily schedule. So, I mean, a lot of this is pretty intuitive, but definitely having a morning routine where you're waking up, not spending all day in your pajamas, getting dressed, having breakfast, trying to find a space in the house for everybody to do their work most effectively and without distractions, especially for school-age children, finding a place where they can be effective in getting their work done. Listing the times for learning, exercise, and breaks. So if you give a lot of school-age children as much time as they want, they're going to spend the whole day playing video games. So really structuring their time so that they're taking time for their schoolwork, time to go outside and get some physical activity, and then time to do things that they enjoy can be helpful. For younger children, 20 minutes is probably as long as they're going to be able to last in terms of doing online assignments. And then breaking that up with 10 minutes of physical activity or a pleasurable activity can be helpful. And older teens and children can be able to focus longer, but still should be trying to take breaks throughout the day so that they don't feel fatigued or just overly stressed by the work they're doing. And it's also helpful to let your children know what hours you need to be sort of available for your jobs or your work when you're working remotely, and sort of having them aware that there are things that you need to get done. And it can be a difficult balance when you have children at home and you're trying to work. So it's trying to keep them engaged in activities, but also having them be a little bit independent in terms of being able to get their work done so that you can get some work done as well, and giving yourself some leeway when you're feeling like things aren't getting done, that everybody's experiencing similar kinds of stress and it's hard on everybody. And so giving yourself some slack if things aren't as productive as you'd like them to be. Schedule time for nutritious lunches and snacks. Well, that's definitely important. So having 3 meals a day, trying to incorporate healthy meals. A lot of schools are providing meals for families that are in need and have trouble putting food on the table. Don't forget afternoon breaks. And I would stress the importance of having dinner together as a family as a way of talking about things, and just connecting. And so trying to eat together every night can be helpful. And then in the evening, spending some family time watching TV or movies, playing games, board games, doing puzzles, reading, and trying to stick to a normal bedtime routine. Although I know a lot of the adolescents I'm seeing are going to bed very late at night and sleeping very late into the day. But, you know, if you can keep to a normal bedtime routine, that can help your emotional and anxiety state to sort of stay at a good level. Staying at home. So frequently kids will feel a bit both socially isolated and bored when they're at home every day, without feeling like things are changing. So giving kids a sense of control and allowing them to make choices when choices can be made. They may not be able to visit friends or go to the movies, but they can pick out which game they're going to play or what they're going to watch on TV. So when there are opportunities to give kids choices, allowing them to make some decisions and giving them a sense of autonomy and control can help in terms of the feelings of anxiety that a lot of kids may experience, and it may also help decrease some of the acting out behaviors that kids may have. Trying to keep your children connected with their friends and family members is helpful. Zooming or FaceTiming with grandparents or loved ones can be helpful. Um, Having kids in a class doing FaceTime lunches or chats can also help them to feel connected to their friends. I don't know how many kids are emailing, but that's also an option. Uh, Helping children find accurate and up-to-date information. So printing out kid-friendly fact sheets can be helpful. And again, similar to adults, trying to find a new hobby or a new craft that kids can learn to do. I know my daughter spent the pandemic so far learning how to ride a two-wheel bike. And so using the time to learn a new activity or exercise or challenge can be something to keep you motivated, and making sure kids are staying physically active. Definitely another thing that you can do with your children is have them participate in meal planning and cooking or baking. And kids love helping in the kitchen. So giving them the opportunity to help you cook or prepare a meal can be a good activity to do. Um, Understanding that the novelty of being out of school does wear off. While every kid will say that they love being home from school, or most kids, by the end of the summer, usually kids are bored and ready to go back to school. And so during this time where they're away from school, they may be sort of sick of not having anything to do. And so understanding that they may be feeling a bit down or stressed about that, and trying to keep things interesting and changing it from day to day can be helpful. Um, Acknowledge that it's a difficult time for everyone. Again, it's trying to normalize the experience both for adults and for kids, giving them their own space. And just because your kids aren't around you 100% of the time doesn't mean that they're sad or depressed. They may just need some downtime to themselves and to do an activity on their own. So I think it is good to have some quiet time during the day where everybody is sort of just spending some time on their own, collecting their thoughts, doing some mindfulness activities, letting little things go. Again, there are going to be things that kids are going to do to get under their parents' skin as they're getting bored and seeking attention. And so not overreacting to things that are happening at home, and trying to be patient and understanding that the kids are going through a lot as well. Um, and then talking about the future, and that things are going to return to normal, or a new normal, and that things that they would look forward to in the past are still things that they're going to be able to do in the future. Dealing with bad behavior. So this is a topic all on its own, but how to deal with challenging behaviors at home. So understanding that kids, when they have trouble expressing their thoughts and their feelings, tend to act out their thoughts and feelings through behaviors which may not be the most positive behaviors at times. Older children and teens may be more irritable than usual, miss spending time with friends, and upset that special events in their lives have been canceled. Um, Definitely graduating seniors, missing out on a lot of senior activities has been a challenge. And so it's understandable that they can be a little bit more irritable or anxious about things. So using positive disciplining strategies is helpful, redirecting bad behavior, ignoring negative attention seeking behaviors, and praising or giving positive rewards for positive behaviors can help reinforce children to do what's right. Um, Explaining clearer expectations, particularly with older children, so setting boundaries, making sure that your kids know what kind of behaviors are appropriate and what kind of behaviors they shouldn't be engaging in. And again, knowing when not to respond as long as they're not doing something dangerous, trying not to give attention to bad behaviors or negative attention seeking behaviors, and really praising and encouraging the positive behaviors. Using timeouts. So the pictures down there can show what things can look like for some families during challenging times. Uh, when you feel like your children aren't listening to you or doing the exact opposite of what you want them to do. And so sometimes taking a timeout can be helpful for everybody in the family to calm down some of the feelings of anger that may be going on, and enable everybody to collect their thoughts and re-engage when things are a little bit less stressful. Usually the recommendation is 1 minute of timeout per year of age, and so using that as a guide. Um, Special time ins, again, when people are stressed and parents are trying to balance remote work with watching and entertaining their children, sometimes it's hard to give individualized attention to each child in the family. And so kids are craving even 10 or 20 minutes of undivided attention. So they're trying to set aside some time for a special time in with your children can help limit some of the negative attention seeking behaviors that can go on. And definitely avoiding physical punishments, which can reinforce negative emotions and negative behaviors in children, and sticking to more positive reward systems or timeouts are better ways of dealing with bad behaviors. Next topic is how to talk to children about the virus and COVID-19. And this is a difficult topic. It's always a fine balance of wanting to be open and honest with your children, at the same time not scaring your children about what's going on. And so a lot of it will depend on the child's developmental level and how much they're capable of understanding, and also, how anxious their temperament is in terms of how much you're going to talk to them about things. But creating an open and supportive environment where you're open to questions that your children may ask, and trying not necessarily to force your children to talk about things, but if they do have questions, trying your best to answer them honestly and not necessarily just making things up. Using words and concepts children can understand, so trying to gear your explanations to the child's language abilities and developmental levels and their age, and trying to use age-appropriate language is helpful. Sometimes we feel like our kids are asking the same questions over and over and over again, And it does take repetition for kids to sort of process information and understand it. And so being prepared to repeat information explanation several times, not getting frustrated with your children for asking the same questions over again, and understanding that it sometimes is a way of them coping with stress and dealing with the uncertainty. Acknowledging and validating your child's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So letting your children know that it's okay that they're sad, that they can't see their friends, and validating those feelings and trying to help them find ways to deal with them. That it's okay to feel anxious, but that they are safe and that you are taking care of them. So validating the feelings that they're having and not sort of dismissing them um, can be helpful. Be reassuring, but not making unrealistic promises. So letting children know that they are in a safe environment, that it's unlikely that they're going to get ill, and if they get ill, it's unlikely that it's going to be a severe illness, but sort of not over promising that nobody's ever going to get ill in your family or in your friends. Let children know there are a lot of people helping the people affected. So there is help out there, that people aren't getting sick without any help. There are lots of people that are going to work every day to help take care of people when they get sick or ill. And children learn from watching their parents and teachers. And so sometimes people aren't mindful when they're talking to other adults about what they're talking about or how much they're talking about the news or things that are going on. And definitely children are learning from their parents and what they're talking about and how they're modeling behavior. So if parents or adults are getting stressed and anxious and angry, you may see similar kind of behaviors in children. If you feel like your child is excessively preoccupied with worries or anxiety or questions about the virus, having them evaluated by a mental health professional may be helpful in getting them engaged in some sort of therapy or support group to help them deal with their worries. Other signs that a child may need additional mental health support: ongoing sleep disturbances, so definitely changes in sleeping patterns, not necessarily going to bed later and waking up later, but waking up a lot throughout the night, or if kids are just unable to go to sleep because of anxiety or worries or having frequent nightmares, intrusive thoughts or worries, recurring fears about illness or death, or reluctance to leave parents or go to school, although most schooling is happening at home these days, but definitely difficulties with separating from parents in terms of going into another room can be a bit concerning. Although parents and teachers may follow the news and daily updates, most children just want to be children. So just because children aren't interested in what's going on with the virus or the news doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. They may just rather play ball or ride their bikes or go sledding. Well, sledding right now is a bit strange. But definitely letting kids be kids and do activities that they enjoy is helpful. And then this is sort of, again, talking to children at their developmental level. So preschoolers, explaining that coronavirus is a germ and that germs can make people sick, the importance of washing their hands, and giving them examples about how germs and colds can get spread from one person to the next. And using a little bit more educated language for school age children, and explaining symptoms. Because coronavirus is caused by a new germ, scientists don't have a medication to treat it yet, but they're working on it. It may take some time. And then for adolescents, on the next slide here, you can sort of engage them more in conversations about it and back and forth with questions and seeing what the adolescent understands, and talking to them in more adult language about things that are going on with their bodies and the immune system and how they can help fight off infections by keeping their immune systems healthy and strong, and that there are active research going on how to combat the virus. And what to do when your family members are hospitalized. And this definitely can add another layer of stress to family and loved ones when one of their own are in the hospital and sick with the virus or sick with any other reason. And so a lot of this advice is similar, managing uncertainty and elevated distress. So still remembering to eat and to sleep and to exercise and to stay connected to people and engaging in health promoting behaviors, even when you have a loved one in the hospital, not sort of trying um, to spend all your time thinking about that and trying to distract yourself, especially since during these times it can be difficult not being able to visit your loved one in the hospital or spend time with them. Maintaining routines, remembering that your loved one is receiving the necessary care, that majority of hospitalized individuals are successfully treated and able to return home. So maintaining hope and thinking positively that things are going to work out and not dwelling on what may happen or catastrophizing about the worst case scenarios is important. Being in communication with the healthcare team, being able to supply them with their their loved ones' medical records or financial documents, and sort of maintaining contact with the doctors or the providers or nurses that are taking care of the patient can help to get updates and also to provide necessary information to help care for your loved one. And while you may be physically separated from your loved one, and trying to understand that it is necessary to keep everybody both in the hospital, both patients and workers safe and healthy, and also keeping family members healthy. So while the physical separation is difficult, trying to find ways to connect with family members that may be in the hospital with similar kind of virtual online platforms and video chats and Zooms can be helpful. Making cards for family members that are sick, or trying to find ways to get kids to do something positive to help show the person that's in the hospital that they're cared for and loved. Um, and having conversations with family about what elderly family members may want if they do get sick can be helpful to sort of do some advanced planning and not be sort of taken surprised if something does go bad while they're in the hospital. Communicating effectively with children, explaining to children that it's unlikely that an otherwise healthy patient with COVID-19 will die, but not overly reassuring them or providing them false assurance. So that's a hard balance. Providing children with updated information about the patient and informing them that the sick family member is receiving the care that they need. And again, validating the child's concerns and having them understand that you're concerned as well, and that it's normal to be worried or concerned about a loved one when they're in the hospital, but that trying to find things to keep ourselves occupied or distracted, or to deal with the anxiety is helpful. This is what I spoke about on the other slide, having children create projects to promote positive thoughts of the person that's ill or to show the person in the hospital that they're cared for. And again, remembering that children are going to model the emotional reactions of their parents or adults around them. Resources for parents and families. So a lot of the information I got for this talk came from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and the American Psychiatric Association in terms of helping kids and parents deal with stress during the pandemic. The American Academy of Pediatrics also has a lot of information for families, and some of these other organizations are mental health organizations in the Lehigh Valley that can be helpful to provide extra support and services as needed. All righty, I made it through. We'll take any kind of, questions from the audience that are out there that have been chatted in.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Levin, for a very informative presentation. We do have some questions coming in. The first question is, do you anticipate a significant increase in mental health issues such as PTSD or OCD as a result of the COVID-19 virus? Maybe more with adults than kids or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, so far from my clinical work, definitely I would say it feels like a lot of the kids may be actually handling the coronavirus pandemic better than their parents in terms of seeming like they're adjusting pretty well to the online platform, tolerating the everyday, not overly worrying about getting ill or sick. Um, Definitely, there's some acting out behaviors and negative attention seeking behaviors, but I think kids are trying to put on a strong and a happy face for their parents at times, which can have long-term effects if they aren't really expressing how they're feeling. But in terms of PTSD, especially for people that do get hospitalized or do get really sick from the illness, it can be traumatizing and lead to flashbacks and nightmares or trouble sleeping or anxiety levels after the experience, because it can be frightening, especially if you're getting intubated or in an ICU setting. And the same is true for frontline healthcare workers that are dealing with death and people dying every day or being severely ill can be traumatizing. And I know at St. Luke's, we're having emotional sort of um, debriefing events at the end of each nursing shift and at the beginning of each day to help staff members to deal with their emotional experiences that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, to help hopefully prevent the onset of PTSD later on. And in terms of the OCD, I do think that the virus and people's worries about hand washing can sort of cause a lingering amount of germophobia or compulsive hand washing behaviors that may linger on past the virus. Um, but during this time, hand washing is probably one of the biggest things we can do to prevent ourselves from getting sick. So it's sort of balancing keeping ourselves healthy, both physically and emotionally. People who have a predisposition to OCD or already had OCD definitely may need even more intensive treatments during this time to help find ways to manage with some of their anxiety symptoms.
Thank you. The next question. Is it normal to be having vivid dreams during the pandemic?
I think it's important to remember that dreams are reflections of our unconscious state, and it's what we're generally thinking about before we go to sleep, even if we don't consciously realize we're thinking about it on the unconscious level, things that have been stressing us or causing us anxiety during the day that maybe we're not talking about or expressing or finding ways to deal with can sort of show up as vivid dreams at night and lead to nightmares or bad dreams. So it's really trying to practice good sleep hygiene techniques in terms of doing relaxation activities before bed, reading a book, listening to calming music, doing a deep breathing exercise to really try to turn off your mind before you go to sleep and relax your body can be helpful in terms of getting rid of distressing or vivid dreams.
Okay. Thank you. The next question. Could you give some examples of redirecting children's bad behavior?
Redirecting children's bad behaviors. So when you see your child um, taking things that they're not supposed to, well, when you see your children playing horse playing or roughhousing with each other, and starting to get it lead to arguments or physical altercations, really trying, it's probably a sense that they're bored or just not having activity or structure. So trying to find a fun activity that they can engage in, trying to think outside of the box is something they don't typically do, encouraging them to get some fresh air, ride their bike, go outside, or just trying to ignore the behavior if you feel like it's just a negative attention seeking behavior. If the kid is throwing a temper tantrum, sort of just letting it extinguish on its own as opposed to giving it positive attention in terms of giving the child what they want can be helpful. But I think more than anything else, having structure to your day and sort of changing things every half hour or every hour can be helpful to prevent things from getting stale and leading to some sort of negative attention-seeking behaviors that may go on.
Okay. Any ideas on how to make children feel special for big events like birthdays or graduation?
So that definitely can be challenging when we're not allowed to leave our homes and not allowed to spend time with other people. My daughter had her fifth birthday during the pandemic, and we were going to have a movie theater birthday party, and so that had to be postponed. So we did one of the drive-by parades for her and invited all her friends that were going to come to the party to drive by her house and say hi, and she felt very special doing that and loved all the attention she got from friends, families, teachers during that. So trying to find ways to still maintain a connection to friends and family and loved ones to celebrate special events, even if you can't celebrate in person, is important and helps the child or the adult to feel special. So graduations, it sounds like people are trying to find creative ways to really celebrate people's graduating this spring. It sounds like President Obama and Michelle Obama are going to do some sort of national graduation for some of the seniors in terms of doing a commencement address. I've heard of drive-in movies being used for big events. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of creative ways people come up with to still celebrate special occasions while maintaining social distancing.
Thank you. Um, any tips to talk about the teens about missing out summer camp?
Yeah. Um, so definitely a lot of summer camps are going to look different this summer. And so again, it's going to be really trying to be creative and finding ways to keep kids, adolescents occupied. And hopefully there will be virtual camps that open up and are still providing some sort of structured activity during the day. Um, and if you have activities you can do at home, sprinklers, swimming pools, that would be nice as well. I don't know if I have a better answer to the camp question there.
We will have to wait and see what summer camps are going to do.
That is true.
Hey, are there any more questions for Dr. Levin? And we'll give a little bit more time and see if any more questions come in. This certainly has been enlightening. I very much enjoyed the tips and suggestions that you gave. Okay. I'm not seeing any.
I'm just gonna ask it just because that way I don't have to repeat it.
Okay.
What about the teens who are not following social distancing rules? How you can reinforce that point to the teens and for the parents who don't know how to pass that message along?
Yeah, I mean, I think for adolescents, there can be this sense of invincibility and feelings like they're not going to get sick or ill. And so maybe the rules don't apply to them. And so it's really trying to explain to them, how their behaviors may affect people that they care about and their loved ones, and the impact that maybe some of the decisions they're making can have on their whole family can be helpful. Beyond that, it would sort of be implementing some sort of expectations of what you would like their behavior to be and what the consequences are going to be if they're not following it. But really, hopefully, if you're reasonably talking to them about the dangers of all the social interactions and how it can lead to both them getting sick and their loved ones getting sick, even if they don't realize that they have the virus, that they can be going around spreading the virus to other people, can be helpful in terms of getting the message across that they do need to try to practice some levels of social distancing, even though it is difficult and challenging in the time period of their life where social interactions and socialization is really what adolescents and teenagers are looking for. And so trying to fill that need through virtual social settings as much as possible.
Yeah, it's a difficult time,
Yeah.
both in terms of development and in terms of the pandemic. Um,
That's for sure.
any suggestions for older children graduating college with so much unemployment?
Hmm. Yeah. I think it is a difficult time to be graduating college and entering the workforce. And it may be a time to think about different kinds of volunteer activities that they can get involved with. If they can sort of bolster the resume doing research or volunteer activities or joining nonprofit groups and helping in any way to tutor others, to provide childcare to families that are trying to go back to work, but their childcare facilities are closed, to help take care of elderly people that need help with groceries or transportation. Um, so I think it's being innovative in the opportunities that are out there, maybe extending their education and going for another degree can be helpful in terms of making themselves more marketable going forward.
Okay, good advice. How to deal with the anxiety of not being able to visit parents or grandparents at old folks' homes.
Yeah. So I think not being able to visit your loved ones can be challenging. And especially the ones that are in nursing homes or in elderly care facilities. Um, and really reminding yourself that you're not visiting them to help keep them safe, and that trying to find ways to connect with them in other ways, making cards, calling them on the phone or FaceTiming, I think it's the best we can do, but showing that you care by keeping in contact and calling and sort of keeping the lines of communication open is the best thing you can do for both yourself and for the one you care about.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. See if anything comes in. Aaron, do you have anything on your end?
That was the last question that we had.
Okay. So, Dr. Levin, thank you again for sharing your knowledge on this very important subject. I also want to thank Stephanie and Aaron, who have been our technological wizards getting this all set up. We couldn't have done it without them. So thank you very much. Thanks again to Jerry and Rabbi Judah and Debbie for their leadership in this program. And thank you, everybody, for attending. I figured we're probably going to have some more of these, so watch your emails. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.